Hello friends, this is Kusum Wahi, your IELTS trainer from Prime Tech EduFolks. Now many of my students, whenever I talk to them, I feel, especially in the starting, in the initial stages, I feel as if there's a lot of confusion in terms of IELTS, why is or what is the requirement of giving IELTS and how do they study so that they are able to score well. So here, I thought of using this platform to explain as to what is IELTS and why is it so important. So firstly, let's understand that more than 10,000 institutions and organizations worldwide accept this IELTS results, right? So these institutions or these, you can say, organizations, they are the universities, colleges, professional registration bodies, employers, and even the governments. And there are two choices that in terms of IELTS examination. The first one is IELTS academic examination, and the second one is IELTS journal training examination. Now, IELTS examination, that is for the academics. The students who are looking for studying abroad, they need to prepare themselves for IELTS academics. It means that in case you need to study abroad in any of the universities, then you need to give this IELTS academic test. And now, in case you need to migrate to different English speaking countries, then you need to give journal IELTS examination. Right? Both of these examinations, they are being tested for 4 modules, 4 skills, you can say. That is your listening, your reading, writing, and speaking. Just remember this, that the reading and writing sections of the academic test are different to the journal training tests. Now let's talk about the first module. Now the first module is listening. Listening consists of 30 minutes and 10 minutes extra will be given to you for you to copy your answers in the answer sheet. Now the candidates in this listening test, candidates listen to the recorded text, monologues and conversations by a range of native speakers. Remember, native speakers, it can be a little challenge in case you don't understand the accent, right? So once again, it is these are the conversations by a range of native speakers, and after this we need to write the answers in a series of questions, answers to a series of questions, okay, and these are 40 in total. Now these texts or these speeches, they include questions which test the ability to understand the main ideas, right, and the details, factual information, the ability to understand the opinions and attitudes of the speakers, right, and it also tests your ability to understand the purpose as to what is being said in the whole conversation, right. It also tests your ability to follow the development of ideas. So a variety of voices and native speaker accents is used over here, and you will hear different sections only once, guys. Okay, so only once, and that is the reason it is considered to be the most difficult test, because you only hear the text once. But over the period of time and when you practice consistently, it becomes the easiest section, right? So it is just a matter of practice. So let's talk about part 1. Part 1 is normally a conversation between two people. It can be an everyday social context, or it can be any conversation. So it is normally a conversation between two people, right? So let's move to part 2. Part 2 is a monologue. What is monologue? Monologue is when only one person speaks, right? And it can be in form of a speech, or it can be a form of a lecture. So you have to listen carefully and then answer the questions accordingly. So a monologue is normally set in everyday social context, for example, speech about local facilities, right? So this is the part 2. Now let's talk about part 3. Again, this is a conversation, but here the conversation can be up to 4 people, and that too, it is set in an educational or training context. For example, it can be a university tutor, or a student discussing an assignment. So this is part 3, which is also a conversation, but the conversation here, the participants can be more. And the fourth one, once again, is a monologue, but it is on the academic subject, sometimes a university lecture, right? So you have to be thorough with all these in order to understand the listening text. Now we are going to talk about the reading module. Now the reading module consists of 60 minutes, means exactly 1 hour is given for you to complete your test. So in this reading section also, the reading component consists of 40 questions which you need to answer. Just like listening, 40 questions are also there in reading section. And the variety of question types is used in order to test the wide range of your reading skills. And these includes reading of main ideas, reading for details, skimming, understanding the logical argument, then recognizing the writer's opinions, attitudes, and purpose. So this is about reading, right? And the reading version, there are 2 versions of it. Let's talk about the academic version right now. As we mentioned, there are 2 of them, academic version and the journal version. So the academic version, it normally consists of 3 long texts which range from descriptive, factual, and analytic information. Now the tests, these are authentic and are normally taken from the books, the journals, magazines, and even the newspapers, right? So these have been selected for a non-specialist audience, right? So these are the texts that is chosen for the audience, but are appropriate for anyone entering the undergraduate or maybe the postgraduate, or for any of the professional registration. Now, if I talk about the reading journal version, now in this, the journal version requires candidates to read the text from books, magazines, newspapers, notices, advertisements, company handbooks, and the guidelines, right? So this is about the reading section. Now the third module is the writing section. Writing section also consists of 60 minutes. The writing component of the academic version includes 2 tasks. Okay, so we are talking about the academic version now. It includes 2 tasks, and the topics are of general interest and suitable for anyone who is appearing for undergraduate or maybe the postgraduate studies, or even seeking professional registration. Right. So this is the academic version for the task, for the writing task. Now there are 2 tasks. One is task 1. In this, the candidates will be presented with a graph, table, or it can be a chart or a diagram, and are asked to describe, summarize, or explain the information in their own words. Right. And in task 2, which is an essay writing, candidates will be asked to write an essay in response to your point of view. It can be an argument, it can be a problem solution, it can be just a discussion, right? So it can be any of these topics. Remember, guys, the writing style, it has to be all formal style. Let's not use any slang or any kind of informal words, or even to the extent any other language should not be used in IELTS essays. Now, this was the academic version of writing. And now let's talk about the journal training version. In this also, there are two tests, right? So one is task 1, where the candidates, so instead of the graph, now the journal test requires the candidate to go for the letter writing, and the candidates will be presented with a situation and asked to write a letter requesting information, or it can be explaining some information, right, or any kind of situation. And the letter can be personal, it can be semi-formal, or it can be formal in style, right? And the word limit for the letter, it should be 150 words. But on the safer side, you can say I request my students to go for 160 words. So when you write 150 words, and in case you are short of one word, your essay can be disqualified, or your letter can be disqualified. So being on the safer side, I request my students for task 1 to write 160 words, and for task 2, for your essay writing, it should be 260 words. Now let's talk about the task 2. Once again, it is the same as you had done in academic version. You will be given an essay, and you will be asked to write an essay in response to your point of view, argument, or problem, right, or any of the discussion methods. And the essays can be slightly more, you can say, more personal in style than the academic writing task 2. This is for the journal task 2 writing skills, right? So now, essay writing. Now let me just tell you guys, essay writing is a form of art. Presenting the language and appearance in writing is inseparably associated, right? The essay is an affiliation to one's ideas and perspectives that comes straight from the mind and just out in the open, right? So it should have the elements that is quite effective, and that should be impressive in writing, right? So there seems to be an abundance of knowledge and ocean of information available around us, so that there is no dearth of it, right? But how do we extract it, or how do we write the most important content and use that in your writing? That is the all about it. That is the art, right? So moreover, a student observes and puts the information together, and how we develop the ideas, firstly in a paragraph and then in form of an essay. That also is of your ultimate test. Right? Now let's talk about the fourth module. That is, of course, my favorite, which is speaking round. And the speaking round normally is the time that is taken is between 11 to 14 minutes. Now the speaking component, which is the most important one, you can say, the module of the test, accesses the use of your spoken English and takes around, as I mentioned, 11 to 14 minutes, right? Every test is recorded, guys. So let's talk about part 1. In this part 1, it is the introductory round, or you can say introduction and interview. Now, in this interactive session, the examiner will ask you few questions based on students' personal information, your name, occupation, study. It can be your interest, hobbies, or even common interest, right? So this is an introduction round to test the students' presence of mind and knowledge of your common topics. Remember, guys, do not lie in the first part of your speaking test. Now, a lot of information is based on your personal information, so there is a chance that your information is being checked, whatever is mentioned in your passport, right? So please do not lie in the first round at all, right? The questions can be based on the part of your work, study, your home, your hometown. Others can be your family, your friends, hobbies, food, culture, weather, then childhood, your holidays, transport, computers, shopping, newspaper, happiness, anything, right? So these can be your journal topics. So being an introduction round, the students normally make it or break it, right? The topics may be very easy, but can be challenging at many times. So remember that it is advisable that you prepare each and every question quite well. Now let's talk about the second part, which is the main round, or which is also called the cue card round. Now the examiners will be presented, the examiner, sorry, will present a task card, which is also called a cue card, which will have a question based on a particular topic, right? The question will further have subparts. The student is given a minute to prepare, and you can take notes in the required given sheet. Let's talk about the part 2 round, which is the main round and which is also called cue card round. Now the examiner here will present a task card or a cue card to the student, and this particular card have a question based on a particular topic. Further, it has subparts, and you need to speak on all the questions. You need to answer all the questions. The student is given a minute to prepare. Minute means 60 seconds. Beyond that, no. Right? You need to prepare, and you can take notes also. So it is my advice, guys, that in this particular minute, take as much notes as possible, think about the topic and jot down and use this particular paper while you are speaking the answer. The student can speak for 2, or it can be for even 3 minutes also. So keep on speaking till your examiner interrupts you or tells you to stop. Now let's take an example. The question is, describe a book you read recently. Okay, so this is just one question. It will have sub questions also, but I'm just talking about describe a book that you have read recently. Now, instead of using I would like to read, so try to use I'd like. That is the contractions. Try to use, instead of I would like, use I'd like. I'd like, right? And you can also use some of the paraphrasing. You can try not to repeat the words. Repetition of words in IELTS pulls down your score. So do not use them. Right. So you can also use the words. Let's say you like to read novel. So you can use, instead of novel, you can use fiction, or you can use any other synonyms, but do not repeat the word book again and again. Right. You can also use a few of the adjectives, like I read a fantastic book, or you can also say I'm an avid reader. I read this fantastic book on so and so topic. So this is another way of developing and extending your talk. So guys, this is part 2 round, which is the most important one. Now let's talk about part 3, which is the elaboration round. which is also called the discussion method, right? Discussion round, where the examiner has the right to interfere or to question in between also. So let's talk about this part 3. This is elaboration round. This is, I would say, this is an interactive round, which will have additional questions. Sometimes these questions are based on the cue card, right? So these are designed to discuss and elaborate ideas or your opinions. Questions can be based on comparisons. For example, do you think it is better to live in countryside or in cities? Right. So these are the questions where a lot of ideas of the student can be listened to. So here, let me give you a tip that use a lot of comparisons. When you use comparisons, you are able to elaborate far better, and you are able to give more information on certain topics. So I would recommend a lot of comparisons that should be used. All right. So now let's talk about the linkers. The linkers are the main ingredients of your speaking. So the more linkers you use, the better chances are that you will score high marks. Now, when I talk about linkers, linkers means in place of and, try to use furthermore or moreover, right? Instead of but, try to use nevertheless or whereas. So these are few of the linkers you can use. What I recommend is that whenever you speak, whenever you practice your speaking test, that time use your favorite linkers all the time. And when you use these linkers in all of your speaking cue cards, there are chances that they will become a part of you, right? So this is about the speaking. Here you can use a storytelling method. You can elaborate more ideas, even if certain things doesn't come to your mind. Doesn't matter, you just grab any of the ideas from movies, from friends here and there, and develop your ideas, right? So this is how it is. And what is the marking scheme? Guys, you remember that the students' performance is accessed by certified IELTS trainers. Marking scheme is based on 4 criteria, right? So this is very important for you to understand. Firstly, you are being marked for fluency and coherence. Fluency, are you fluent? Are you rhythmically following your sentences or not? So make sure your ideas, they flow just like water in the river, right? So no harm preparing beforehand with the mind map, or you can also say, these 5 questions you can ask: what, where, when, why, which, and the last question, of course, sixth one, that is how, right? How, of course, is the elaboration of all these. So use filler sentences. Of course, you can add linkers that will benefit you and that will add more band score to your test card. Now, lexical resources. Lexical resources, another name for lexical resources is better vocabulary words. So as I said, if you say, I read thoroughly, or you can say, I am an avid reader. So avid reader will fetch you more marks, right? So beautify your language with the vocabulary words in a very natural and sophisticated manner. Third one is your GRA, that is your grammatical range and accuracy. Guys, you may be using fancy words, but if grammatically your sentences are incorrect, I am really sorry. They will cut down your marks. So remember not to make grammatical mistakes. I know it's easy to say. You don't want to make mistakes. However, we end up making grammatical mistakes. So please get a feedback from your trainer as to where are the mistakes that you're committing, especially the grammatical mistakes, right? And the pronunciation. Pronunciation is the most important part of your language, especially English language. It is all about the pronunciation, right? Use intonation and stress to communicate your ideas. So guys, this is how you will be judged for your IELTS speaking test. So I hope I was able to give you more clarification as to what is IELTS and how you need to prepare for it. So for more information, of course, you can log on to our website or subscribe me our channel as well, right? And I'll be guiding you on more information. Thank you very much.